This is going to be the greatest NBA Finals of all time.
Brunson stops on a dime.
Public service announcement.
Launches. Oh, yeah! Jalen Brunson buries it.
Check it out.
Think he's going to go from midcourt. Got it!
And dare I say, ladies and gentlemen, that the San Antonio Spurs are underdogs. For the past week, the media and everybody online has been saying that, whoever wins the Western Conference Finals, either the OKC Thunder or the San Antonio Spurs, are basically guaranteed to win the NBA Finals. Well, let me tell you this right here, ladies and gentlemen, that couldn't be further from the truth. Victor Wembanyama and Jalen Brunson have seen each other a total of 6 times in their career, including 1 NBA Cup. And the series total lands at 4 games for the New York Knicks and 2 for the San Antonio Spurs. Now, all those games together, Jalen Brunson is averaging 31.5 points per game with 7 rebounds, and he dropped 61 points in one of those games. And on the other side, Victor Wembanyama is averaging 30.5 points per game and 14.5 boards per game, something which can be a real kryptonite for this New York Knicks team. Now, these 6 games together is an accumulation of about 3 years, and we know how much the NBA changes in just 1 year. So let's really look at this season. Excluding the NBA Cup, this season's series is tied 1-1, with the San Antonio Spurs taking the first game they played at home, 134-132. That win can be attributed to De'Aaron Fox and Julian Champagnie, who dropped 11 threes, totaling 36 points for the game. Now, their second season matchup in New York, the Knicks took the game 114-89, where the Spurs, other than Wembanyama, pretty much struggled all around. And for the New York Knicks, their consistency, their firepower sustained throughout. Now let's talk about the NBA in-season tournament, the NBA Cup, which most resembles the NBA Finals. The New York Knicks ended up winning the NBA Cup 124-113. For the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama dropped a not-so-efficient 18 points, and they didn't get really much out of the bench. For the Knicks, OG Anunoby had a game-high 28 points, while Jalen Brunson had a not-so-efficient 25 points, shooting 11 for 27. Now, these inefficient numbers for Jalen Brunson, for Victor Wembanyama, I don't see them continuing in this NBA Finals. Now let's talk about each individual team, starting off with the New York Knicks, who have a plethora of firepower. And the biggest question one might ask is, can they stay consistent? Guys like OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Landry Shamet, the biggest question surrounding these two is, can they stay consistent? Because so far in the playoffs, they've been able to provide points and firepower for this team, and that's why they are in the NBA Finals. Yes, I've mentioned OG, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. The emergence of the veteran Landry Shamet has been a huge contributor for success for this Knicks team, but the key for the series boils down to 2 players. One of those players being Karl Anthony Towns. Throughout his career, and especially in the playoffs, Karl Anthony Towns has been very undisciplined when it comes to fouls. Whether it be getting into foul trouble in the early half of the game, or fouling out and not being able to play in the latter half of the game, this problem for Karl Anthony Towns has been very detrimental to him and his teams in the postseason. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is the biggest test for him going up against Victor Wembanyama. A guy who's going to bully Karl Anthony Towns and bait him into fouls the whole series. And not only is Karl Anthony Towns going to be tested in the defensive end, but on the offensive end is going to be limited. If the Spurs can give Karl Anthony Towns the Chet treatment, they're looking real nice. Now, the second key to success for this New York Knicks team is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson is currently questionable heading into Game 1, dealing with a hand injury, which is going to really limit his minutes and efficiency on the court throughout this series. And especially when you have a guy in Karl Anthony Towns who commits a lot of fouls, you need a backup center, a bigger center, a guy like Mitchell Robinson who can defend, who can grab rebounds, healthy and playing. And in the past, especially last year's playoffs, we've seen how valuable Mitchell Robinson is to being an anchor for this team. And if he can't stay healthy and on the court, especially if Karl Anthony Towns is fouling, it's going to be a big problem. And a huge contributor for success for this Knicks team that they've been doing this whole playoffs is the fourth quarter. Whether they've been coming back from a giant lead or just running away with the game, the Knicks have been dominating the fourth quarter. It's something that the Spurs need to be mindful about. Now let's move on to the San Antonio Spurs, where we know Victor Wembanyama is just going to do his thing and dominate. And it boils down to his supporting cast, the rest of the guys out there. And when I think of the San Antonio Spurs, I think of a decade-long dynasty in the making. They have one of the greatest comp teams surrounded by veterans, players entering their primes, and young promising rookies. Not only did the San Antonio Spurs draft a once-in-a-generation player in Victor Wembanyama, they also went ahead and got Steph Castle and Dylan Harper. Steph Castle has really even emerged further from his Rookie of the Year last year to now being amongst all-stars. And on a similar note, Dylan Harper, who has really emerged this playoffs into a budding star, has been a huge X factor for San Antonio. Not only do the San Antonio Spurs have young budding stars, they also have veterans who've been there and done that in De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. And they also have a core they've kept for a while, and guys like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell. Now, I do think the New York Knicks have a little bit of a better bench than San Antonio, but with the Nuns blessing Luke Cornett, who knows what can happen. And one last player who I really want to highlight for the San Antonio Spurs, a guy who was a huge contributing factor as to why the Spurs beat the OKC Thunder, Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant limited SGA to his worst playoff performance he's had in his career, which is really impressive when you think a rookie went out there and limited the two-time NBA MVP SGA. And I'm really curious to see the defensive matchups. I think Carter Bryant is going to be guarding Jalen Brunson, but this could work against the Spurs. Carter Bryant's a really aggressive defender, but that could be to a fault, something which Jalen Brunson can see and exploit. And if Carter Bryant gets into foul trouble earlier on, they're going to have to make some defensive adjustments and matchup changes, which can really propel the other guys in the Knicks teams to succeed. But also Jalen Brunson is just going to feast. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention about that OKC versus the Spurs series is that I think if the OKC Thunder had a healthy Jalen Williams, OKC would be going to the finals. And that's what's so scary about the New York Knicks is they have guys that can go out there, drop 25 points, multiple guys that can do that. And that could be a real problem for the San Antonio Spurs. Now, if the Spurs really want to win this game, they're going to need to exploit two things which I think they can exploit. That is rebounds and second chance points. I think that's going to be the key to the series, and that's going to propel the San Antonio Spurs to win the series. Now, I think this NBA Finals is a series that we're going to be looking back in 50 years' time when we're thinking about dynasties. And I currently have the Knicks just edging out the San Antonio Spurs, but I could see it going either way. Like I said, if the Spurs can take advantage of rebounding and second chance points and getting Karl Anthony Towns in foul trouble early, they can win this series. But I think New York right now are the favorites. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the series. What are your predictions? Peace.